No jobs, no food, no money, miles-long food lines, and evictions on the rise in America. Thousands of Americans waiting for hours to get a basket of Thanksgiving food. Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum's founder and the architect behind the Great Reset theory, once said, "You'll eat nothing, and you'll be happy." Today, American families are lining up in historic numbers at food banks across the country as the pandemic exacerbates levels of food insecurity for millions of people. Many of them are there for the first time. Long lines form at food banks ahead of Thanksgiving. Food banks nationwide are struggling to keep up with skyrocketing demand, and officials who run them warn that things could get even worse very soon. Food banks across the nation are seeing a larger number of Americans amid the pandemic. According to Feeding America, an estimated 50 million people face food insecurity this year. Unemployment insurance will run out for most of those folks in December. If this happens in the richest country in the world, it's by design or a previously unimaginable level of incompetence. Lockdowns, stores closed out, masks mandates and po out to enforce it all while MS-13 and the brethren run around with little to worry about. Breadlines and poverty for the populace, luxury and nightly parties for the gruesome Newsom and Pelosi. The rich who got those massive tax breaks are now dining at expensive restaurants, being pampered with any request. The rest of us are enjoying top ramen for Thanksgiving in a food line. How sad, our country is getting what it wanted. At least the politicians are, anyway. We, as a society, are falling in step with what the governments want. If you have to go out and beg for your food, then you are exactly what they want, someone who can easily be controlled. Without your food, you will do what you are told and not ask the questions that they don't want asked. Have at it. If you are in the position to help yourself and all others, then that is a good thing. But we all should be striving to learn how to care for ourselves and thus our family too. If you know how to care for yourself, your family, then you won't have to go out and beg for your food. America is now a third world country, the only difference is people wait in cars for food. The Thanksgiving reality of smaller family gatherings is also being met with a growing number of Americans going hungry. The Greater LA Food Bank says demand this year is up 145%, as lines for Thanksgiving turkeys stretched for miles in Dallas on Friday. Food bank distribution center across the country with a line of cars miles long, full of people who need assistance to have enough to eat. During the Great Depression of the 1930s, people stood outside in lines for food. The 2020 crisis, people waiting in their cars for food, with the longest lines in California, Texas, and Florida. Hundreds of cars lined up for Thanksgiving food distribution. Poor Americans still use their leased gas guzzler to go line up at the food bank because most don't own their cars free and clear. Instead, they drive them for a few years and then trade them in for a newer model. Either that or the cars get repossessed. The dealerships know this, but don't care, so long as the cars keep moving off the lots. The entire system is rigged to stick people into payments. We are debt slaves. And even worse, if someone is in actual need of food or housing or welfare of some type. If they own a car, even a beater, they consider that an asset and they might have to sell it or not qualify for help. But, if they are making payments on a new car, it's not considered an asset and makes it easier to qualify for assistance. Pretty bogus, I say. Thanks God for the workers at the food banks and the people who are behind the scenes filling the boxes and bags to be handed out. These folks have helped keep many families alive. It stinks that in this great country so many people have to go to food lines to put food on our table. Too bad the politicians in Washington don't know what that is like. We have food banks all over the place, and we claim to not have bread lines. Now we actually have bread lines in the literal sense. It didn't take very long for so many people to be in such especially dire need. You're all being stolen from every day by the corporations and the bourgeoisie. The rich in the USA are just laughing at how stupid the masses are. No country as rich as the US would have such breadlines if people were not so ignorant. Most Americans don't have enough funds saved up to survive for 3 months. A fourth of people don't have enough to last more than 1 month. They are practically living paycheck to paycheck. This is the consumer economy that the Fed wanted. It keeps the money supply moving and doesn't encourage people to save. Because if you save in a bank or in cash, you're punished by inflation, backdoor tax. Mission accomplished. The owners got what they wanted. This will only get worse, a lot worse, as thousands of jobs are tossed out the door and shutdowns across the country. It's the American dream gone bad. People took for granted that if bad things happen, the government will look after them, but the reality is that our government does not care. They promise a lot before the election, then turn to help their rich campaign contributors. Rich people don't create jobs. Reaganomics is just outright theft from the productive classes to the parasite classes. Rich don't pay taxes, but regular people do. Handing things to the rich is worthless. Look at all the pandemic aid they sucked up while laughing at all the small businesses, which were the real drivers of the economy through America's golden age. Our representative who passed the CARES Act in March are responsible. They bailed out large corporations and put the bill on us, our children, and grandchildren. They are horrible. Why they keep getting voted in is beyond me. My entire life, they've mucked everything up shamelessly. Welcome back to the Atlantis Report. You are here for your daily dose of the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Please take a second to click the like button. As many of you have asked me about where they can buy silver and gold bullion. You will find in the description box the links where you can buy American Silver Eagle, silver bars, and rounds. I highly recommend that you too start stacking some silver bullion for the future. Shanty towns, bread lines, dead Americans, hospitals without beds, and dictatorship. Somehow we always knew this is what the politicians would bring us. When the state governors shut down the economy in their states, the many middle-class-owned businesses are forced to close down. It results in millions of good hard-working people, many of who need every bit of work they can find to feed and provide for families, to suffer greatly. It has destroyed quite a bit of the middle class, considering 80% of the private sector works for small businesses. It has devastated many across America unabated. But one can believe that the politicians, governors, mayors, and members of Congress all got paid handsomely through the entire shutdowns. They did quite well, often were caught violating their own dictatorial and harsh directives. Everything from showing off their vast ice cream inventories, walking through airports unmasked, a doctor in the know sitting at baseball games unmasked, mayor going to large gatherings like in Chicago saying they needed to get out, a California governor seated at large dinners, etc., etc., etc. They said churches, synagogues, and other religious gatherings were not essential in some states, forcing many to close up, but their casinos and other major tax revenue sources were more than welcome to operate, and mass protest gatherings, with many resulting in the burning, looting and destroying businesses went on as a constitutionally guaranteed right. So many ways to take the money when it comes to politicians, but the heck with the middle-class business owners and their employees. They can stay home and put their masks on and wonder where their next meal will come from. Lesson learned? Don't mess with kings or queens, and especially politicians and their money. They can put you in a damn bread line while they live well. Ever hear the story of why a French king lost his head as his people suffered? It seems in his demise, he watched the guards play with his children from Tower confinement, till his son and heir was sent to be brutalized to his death by a cobbler, cordwainer, after his father's untimely beheading. And thus the great Tavernier Blue or French Blue Diamond disappeared forever. Some say the cursed hope was cut from it along with a sister stone, but most debatable and a story for another day. What a tale, one much can still be gleaned from today. Everyone in America wanted that cheap junk from China. Buying that stuff has consequences. NAFTA was a terrible deal, both parties pushed it through. Perot called it right on the money. Anyone with one half a brain could see what was going to happen. Yes, elections have consequences. We were lucky we had a strong economy going into this pandemic. The government gave out crazy amounts of money to people for not working. If they had saved one half of that $600 a week, they should be good till next fall. Remember, they got unemployment on top of that. We have a pandemic, all right, a pandemic of the lack of common sense and personal responsibility. The question is, how much longer can this be denied by the culprits responsible? One big problem: US is in such a dire situation, and not the only US but other nations as well, are few factors. One is military spending by the US and wars outside the homeland, 20 trillion supposedly missing or mismanaged by Pentagon. How you mismanage that amount makes heads spin. 2 Unprecedented fiasco of pension plans and other social programs. Yes, we need social programs, but the system is absolutely broken. Bureaucracy and list go on. Now with the pandemic use as an excuse to global shutdown economy for a reset, most are wondering what will be next. Absolute bankruptcies are here already and are coming in global structure, except, of course, few bosses in casino. They know well, writings had been on a wall a long time ago, but the patient needs its new blood transfusion. Print baby print.